Okay, so the activity on page 421 is to help us understand inverse functions. This is a very, very important concept, so that's why we take the time to actually do this activity in class. In all of your other levels of math that you're going to go from now on, hopefully you can reflect back on this as this activity. You'll be able to reflect back on this activity, and it will help you. Okay, when we go to graph a lot of things later on, it's actually easier to graph like the inverse of something, and then you'll be like, oh, and now I can reflect it and be able to graph the other part of it, and it just is easier. So, but just that will make sense more by the end of our activity. So, everybody on page 421? Yes. We're going to all go through these steps together. These 6 steps will be what you go through in a minute, okay, on your own. So it's the same 6 steps, for sure, the same 6 steps. We're all going to do this one together. We start with the function f of x is equal to x minus 3 over 2. What does step 1 say to do?
Choose the value of x and find the corresponding value of y equals f of x. Plot the points.
Right.
Draw the line that passes through.
All right, so we need to make a table, don't we? We need to choose some values of x. You can choose any values you want. I think it would be nice, though, if you chose some values of x that would not make you have to graph fractions, right? So think about what types of numbers for x would be nice. You say 5 would be nice to do? 5 would be nice. I agree.
1 can work too. That's what I'm saying.
1 would be nice. I agree. Now the other couple numbers? -1. I like it. I would like one more.
3 itself.
3? 3 would be good. I like 3. Now my question is, how come you picked all odd numbers?
Because it's the only thing that works. I mean, to make not a fraction.
Because if we picked even numbers, right? If we picked an even number and took away 3, it would be an odd, and then we can't really divide by 2 without making a fraction, right? So we always want to pick an odd number if we're going to take away 3. All right, very good. So let's go ahead and build that table. You guys are all doing this on your own, right?
Yep.
Take away 3 divided by 2. Take away 3 divided by 2. Yes, everybody's writing this down. That's what the top graph on your paper is for.
Oh wait, we're doing this on this page?
Yes. It definitely would be 3, 0. Yep. Definitely should graph it. Unbelievable.
Yeah, we have to.
That's all right. I love that this is being recorded and everybody on YouTube will be able to watch this. Come on in. Oh, yeah, everybody can hear it. Okay, so it said to graph the points after that, right? Come on in. Get it right back there. And then -1, -2, 3, 0. And we notice that it makes a nice straight line. What else does it say to do on step 1? Draw the line that passes through it. So let's go ahead and do that. Yep, IDs for a straight edge would be nice.
I have my ID. I'm a good student.
I have to try to eyeball it, so we'll see how that goes. All right. That was all step 1. Step 2, what's it say to do? Okay. So interchange the x and y's. So that means we're going to make another table. But in this case, the x's become the y's and the y's become the x's. Right? So 5, 1 becomes the point 1, 5. And then negative 1, 1. Negative 2, negative 1. 0, 3. And we're going to plot those points. And it says we're going to name that guy g of x, right? That's all step 2. Actually, step 3 is where they say to name it g of x. If you have a different color pen or pencil, it says nice. Okay, so this is all on the first graph. What does it say to do on step 3? It says write an equation of this line. All right, well, what do we need to do to write the equation of a line? And we need the y-intercept. All right, do we have both of those? Can we tell by looking at the graph what the slope is and the y-intercept? What's the y-intercept? 3. What's the slope? Ain't it like 2? Looks like it's up 2 over 1, so I would agree. So what's the equation of the line? What's the equation of the line?
2x plus 3.
Come on, guys. Chapter 2. Freshman year. 2x plus 3. The y-intercept is at 3. Slope is up 2, so up 2 over 1. Like up here, right? Up 2 over 1. Okay, so 2x plus 3. Okay, that's step 3. What's step 4 say to do? Okay, here's the hardest step. This is the hardest step. Please make sure both of your lines are nice and dark. So if you were one of these light drawers, right, where you're like super light with your pencil, you're going to want to make these darker. Because you're going to have to pick up your paper and you're going to fold it in such a way that both of the lines are lying right on top of each other. So that way, you're welcome. So all you see is one line. Okay, so this might take a little bit. All right, your fold line that you made should look something like this. It should be going through that point that the two lines intersect. It should go through the origin and should go right through the middle.
Whoa, did they always go through the origin?
And this is the line y is equal to x, guys. That's the line y is equal to x. So everyone's fold line should go right through there.
Should we draw it?
Well, you've got it folded. I can't fold my board, so I have to draw it in there. But you guys should see that on your fold. Now listen. Do you recall back in geometry this being called a reflection line or a line of symmetry even? It's like the G line is a reflection of the F line. Okay? So that's what they're asking you to do there in step 4, is to describe what happens geometrically. Well, one's a reflection of the other over the line y is equal to x. And that's true of all inverse functions. So whenever we switch the x and the y in our second table, when we made our g function, okay, that's what happens every time that you reflect something over the line y is equal to x, is that you just switch the x and the y's.
Okay, so
That's what's happening there.
So doing this is like checking it.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about step 5. In step 5 it says, in words, what's happening to x, right? In words, it says, for the f function, it says that it subtracts 3 and then divides by 2, right? And they're asking you to write out in words what happens in the g function. So can you do that real quick on your paper? For the g function, what is happening to x? This is kind of like what we were talking about yesterday when we said that whole something thing, right? We multiply by what?
2.
By 2 and then add 3. So I just want you to write that out. You multiply by 2 and you add 3. By just looking at the g function. If you would put something in for x, what would you do to it? You would multiply by 2 and you would add 3. You with me there? Do you see how that is related to the f function steps?
Yeah, it's opposite.
It's opposites, isn't it? So in algebra, when we're solving, don't we always say use inverse functions? Inverse functions? Ah, inverse functions. But it's backwards and inverse, isn't it? So in the f function, the last step is divide by 2. And in the g function, the first step is multiply by 2.
Oh, I see.
Okay, and then it subtracts 3, and then the last thing is add 3. So if we had 15 steps of the f function, we could write the inverse function by starting at the end and writing the inverse operations, right, in the reverse order.
I thought you got it, bro.
Okay, so that's how that works as well. It's nice. Number 6. Number 6. I'm not so worried about the predict part, but it does want us to say and figure out what is f of g of x and what is g of f of x. So let's figure that out. Let's write our composite functions. Okay? We'll do these together. What does the f function do? This is our practice from yesterday now.
That function is subtract 3.
It says something
3 of something.
minus 3
Yeah.
and divide by 2, right?
Yeah.
So something minus 3 divide by 2. Okay, what is the something we're going to put in there?
2x plus 3.
2x plus 3. Okay, let's simplify. What happens to the plus 3 and the minus 3?
Cancel out.
Becomes 0. So then I have 2x over 2. What's that equal? X. All right. Let's find out g of f of x. What's the g function do? 2 times something plus 3. What's the something? X minus 3 over 2. What simplifies? The 2's. And I get x minus 3 plus 3. Uh-oh, x. The minus 3 and the plus 3 becomes 0. You get x again. Okay, so when we have inverse functions, and we do f of g of x, we should get x. And when we do g of f of x, we should also get x. That's another way we can test to see if if two functions are inverses of each other. Those are your 6 steps. Those are your 6 steps. So now you're going to be working in your groups of 3 people. And each one of you in your group are going to pick one of the 3 problems on page 421 to complete. That's what your second graph is for. And then you will share out to your group.